All right, let's get another piece of wood on the fire here. I like this fireplace. All right, let's see what we're going to do today. Hey, welcome back to Bray's Wood Turning Shop. Today we're going to talk about sharpening, some different tools that's out there. Some of the tools that's out on the market now with these carbide tip tools, which is kind of taken off, and we're going to talk about the traditional tools and the advantages and disadvantages of some of them. All right, we're going to get started over here at this cart, and I'll break down the categories and stuff. Let's get started with this. Okay, here at my little cart, I got all the tools laid out here. Right here in the center section, I got some traditional tools. Then over here on the left-hand side, I've got my carbide tip cutters, and then we got a couple bowl gouges. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about each one of these tools, and then we're going to talk about how to sharpen them. The first one I want to talk about is this carbide cutter. This is a round cutter. This is put out by Easy Wood Tool, and Easy Wood Tool has been out for a few years now. I like the Easy Wood tools. They are very good. Then you also have all right, this is the square nose Easy Wood tool. Now they got another cutter out here that also has a sharp point on it. All these tools are very good. The other tool that I got that's a carbide that I want to show you is the hollowing tool, that Easy Wood tool, and I really like this one. It's got a flat surface here. Got the carbide round cutter. This is for getting inside vases and vessels. This is a very good tool. You can use it right off your tool rest. The thing with the carbide cutters is that you have to buy these little cutters, and you have to when they get dull, and you just replace them. It's very easy. You don't have to have any special tools to sharpen them. They say you can sharpen these things, but you know, you take a diamond stone, you turn them upside down, and you just run them around on the diamond stone, but you got to take them off the cutter though. And they say you can sharpen that like that, but what I have found is that sometimes you get nicks and stuff in there, and that really is hard to take out with a diamond stone. Okay, this next section right here in the middle is the traditional tools. This is what I grew up with. Back when I was a teenager, this is what kind of tools that I got started on as far as the design and stuff. This is a roughing gouge. The roughing gouge has a deep flute in here that you can see, and this is for roughing out spindles. Don't use this on bow turning. This is not a bow turning tool. This is strictly for spindle turning. The roughing gouge has a deep flute, and it's a very easy tool to sharpen. I'm going to show you how to sharpen that here in a minute. This next tool is called a round nose scraper. A round nose scraper is used kind of like the carbide tip cutter. You use them kind of in the same things on cutting the wood as these two tools right here. We'll talk about how to sharpen this one. One of the tools that you can't do without is a parting tool. Parting tool is a very useful tool. You use it for a lot of different things, and it's a very easy tool to sharpen. This next one is a spindle gouge. This is used for spindle turning, and the difference between a spindle gouge and a bowl gouge is that in a bowl gouge, and I'll show you here, is that the flute is very deep on a bowl gouge, and that allows, as you're down inside that bowl, it allows them shavings to flow out naturally. It can use, you got a different cutters on here. These are fingernail grinds on these two tools. A lot of your spindle cutters are just a regular grind, and that you would have on your roughing gouge, and I will show you how to sharpen that here a little later, and I'll talk about the two. This one here is a very good tool, very good detail tool. I can cut coves with it, I can cut beads with it, and we'll talk about how to sharpen this one. This next tool is called a skew, and it's like a knife edge, got a heel and a toe. One thing about this tool is that it's a little bit more difficult to sharpen because I do not sharpen my skews on my grinder. I sharpen them on a diamond stone, and I'll give you an example of that here in a second. These bowl gouges come in different sizes, and you can see two different sizes here. We got a 3/8 fingernail bowl gouge with a fingernail grind on it, and we got a 1/2 inch fingernail bowl gouge with a fingernail grind on it. All these tools that are traditionally that I have talked about is high-speed steel. High-speed steel has come along in the last several years, and it's kind of replaced the old carbon steel tools that I used to use. These tools stay sharper longer, they're easier to sharpen, and you don't have to worry about taking the temper out of them. You can actually get them, overheat them a little bit. It won't take the temper like your old carbon steel did. You know, wood turning's come a long ways in the last few years, and the best thing, we get the benefit from it. Now, let's move over to this next part, and I'm going to show you how to sharpen some of these traditional tools. We're over here to the grinder, and I want to take you back about 25 years with this grinder. It's been around in my shop for quite some time, at least 25 years. This is an 8-inch slow speed grinder. It runs about 1725 RPMs. Most grinders out there are going to run in the 3200 RPM range. I really strongly suggest that you use a slow speed grinder that allows you to have more control while you're grinding these tools. If you get into the high speed grinders, most of them have got the gray wheels on them. I love the white wheels. They don't get as hot. They're a little bit softer than your gray, and they just do so much of a better job. We got an 80 grit wheel on this left hand side, and when I would use that would be like if I had a nick in it or I was going to completely regrind a tool, then I would use this side, and it's got the 80 grit wheel. Now this side over here has a 120 grit wheel. This is what I usually sharpen with and go right back to the lathe. It's very simple. Now, while we're talking about wheels, there is a lot of more wheels on the market now. One is the CBN wheels. They're diamond plated on there, and they don't grind your tools away. I've actually got one, and I got another grinder that I'm getting ready to set up. And we might do a video on how to set that grinder up. That would be a very good educational video when you get your slow speed grinder that you can set your own up. And I'll show you the process of how to do that. One thing that with this grinder I have purchased is a Wolverine of grinding attachments that go underneath the grinder, and you can see this has got a sled here that runs back and forth, and this you place your tool handles in here. You place your foot for your bowl gouges in here to sharpen these. It's also got the plate, and I use these plates for sharpening certain tools. It's got your flap, and I can interchange these two. One thing when you lay this out, as far as your Wolverine attachments, is that you want the handles in the front on the outsides. You don't want to get them mixed up or you have problems. Right here under my grinder, you will see a 3/4 inch piece of wood. This 3/4 inch piece of wood goes in between the grinder and your workbench, or in this case I got a board that I can move around. I can take this to shows with me, whatever I want to do, and this will allow me to be mobile. But I took the rubber feet off of this grinder and fastened it right to my board because I do not want that grinder to flex any at all while I'm sharpening. When I line these up, I want them lined right in the center of my wheel as far as these holders for your slides. And once that happens, then I can do my tools right dead center of that wheel. Now, mind you, tell you how old this one is. These have got 3/4 inch wheels. How long has it been since we've seen 3/4 inch wheels come out on these grinders? Everything nowadays are coming out is 1 inch. And so I'm kind of anxious to put this other grinder together. Now, let's get into some sharpening. I'm going to show you how to sharpen some of these basic tools. And the first one I'm going to start out with is the roughing gouge. This roughing gouge is a very simple tool to sharpen. I just place him in the cradle here, and I will slide it back till I get the bevel riding right on that wheel. Once I get that bevel riding right on the wheel, then I will tighten him down, and then I can take, start this up, and all I have to do is just run that thing around like that, and then I'll go back and all the way to the other side. Now, one thing you want to really concentrate on is keeping this flat. You don't want to round off your wings. You want to keep that good and flat, just like that right there. Okay? And that's all it was to sharpen that tool. This tool is ready to go. It's sharp. If it gets too hot, you always want to have some water over there so that you can cool them off. Because you're going to go right back over there and touch this tool and start turning again. And you don't want to get burnt. So always have some water around so you can cool them off. Most of the time it's not going to build up enough heat. The next tool that I want to talk about is a parting tool. And this parting tool is pretty much the same manner as the roughing gouge. Put him down in the cradle. Get my bevel. And I really want to stress something right here. You notice I've got my safety glasses on here. With side shields, you always want to wear safety glasses when you're doing this sharpening. It's a must. It's a must. You can't do without it. All right. Just hold that on there just a little bit, and I can see that that wheel is touching the whole tool. And I'm not pushing down on this thing hardly at all. It's just kind of, I'm just more or less guiding it through the sharpening. And now I have put a hollow ground on this tool. I will cool him down. And what I mean by hollow ground, a lot of people say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, hollow ground is I put this tool on that wheel is round, and it is actually called hollow ground in the tool. You can tell if this tool has been hollow ground because if you can look right there, it has a curve in it. And that curve, it comes from the wheel. So that's what they mean by hollow grinding. So that tool sharpened, that's all it took. Just a few seconds. This next one is the fingernail spindle gouge. This fingernail spindle gouge is a little bit more difficult to sharpen. You have to use the foot. And I want you to look at this with the brand name on the side here. This is the one-way sharpening system. And I want you to look right here where this front leading edge is according to that notch. Now, once you get that set, you just pretty much weld it. You know, tighten this up real tight because you will never move that again. I will stick this tool in here and I will stick it out, let's say 2 inches outside. I've got a mark on my bench here and I'm sticking it 2 inches out, and I will tighten this up. My handle broke off the other day. I dropped this in the floor. So you got to compromise sometimes. So that's, again, that's sticking 2 inches out according to my mark here. I put this foot down into the cradle. I'll slide it in till I get my bevel. Everything works off of this bevel. Even when you're turning on a piece of wood, it's all about the bevel. Okay, Start her back up again. Go and take it out of there. Cool it down some. You know it's hot because there's some steam coming off there. And we got a good sharp tool. Now, that is the spindle gouge, and that's a fingernail spindle gouge. Earlier I talked about a regular spindle gouge, and what you do as a regular spindle gouge is that you would sharpen it just like the roughing gouge. You'd put it in the cradle and just turn it back and forth. I want to stick this one back in here, and I want to show you just a little bit of, slow this down a little bit, of how you can tell that you're sharpening on the cutting edge. One thing you can do is take a black magic marker, and you can mark in this whole thing, and yet you can run it on there, and you can look at it and tell if you need to move your heel, your slide in or out because of the heels maybe not touching or the toes not touching on this bevel, and you can slide it in and out according to that. Now, another way that you can talk about if I'm sharpening on the cutting edge is that if you put this in here like this and I turn it on, I don't know if you can zero in on this at all, but you can see some sparks coming over to the inside of the flute. Let's turn this on and see if we can't pick that up on the camera. See the sparks up in here, right here where I'm talking about? I'm going to take this tool and point to it. They'll be right on the inside right here. See those sparks? You see them sparks going right down that flute. And when you see them sparks on the inside like that, just like that was, that means you're sharpening on the cutting edge. And that's very important, because if not, if them sparks were going in under that, you couldn't see no sparks, that would mean that you was taking too much off of the heel of the tool. So you want to take a good flat surface all the way across each one of these tools as you sharpen them. This next tool I'm going to sharpen is called a scraper. We're going to take this slide out, and we're going to put this one in. Lock him down there. Now, one thing I want to do is take this and I find my bevel again. Once I find that bevel, I just go right around my bevel, leaving this flat. And you can feel that this put a little wire rim around that, and that's your cutting edge. And that's all it was to sharpen a scraper. I have some different type scrapers. The only scraper I really use a lot is my big left-handed round nose scraper. And a lot of times I will use that inside of a bowl if I've got a very difficult area in there, right down in the curvature of that bowl. And I will use that to clean that up sometimes. And I don't use it very often. I try to do it all with my bow gouge. And we'll talk about that down the road. This next tool I want to introduce to you is probably one of my favorite tools. It's called the bow gouge. And of course you've got 1/2-inch bow gouges. You got 3/8 bow gouges. There's fingernail bow gouges. And I will probably use this one right here most of the time when I'm turning bows, because I don't do real big bows. I do mostly smaller bows. It seems like they sell better, so I spend my efforts what's going to sell the best. So we'll go in and we'll actually put this one out 3/4. Tighten this down. Gonna have to turn me a knob and glue back on here, especially since I got a lathe. Go over here and I slide this cradle in till I get to my bevel. Get my bevel lined up. Fasten him down. Okay, we flip this on. You always want to lift this tool off of the wheel before, as you turn it on, let the wheel get up to speed. And then all we're going to do, a lot of times with these, I would like to touch it. And you can see that I am grinding all the way across this thing. This will come second nature to you later on when you set these things up. A lot of people will have trouble not getting them, either grinding on the heel too much or grinding on the toe too much. And you want it to grind all the way across that. Oh, this is a really, really good cut right here. And that tool is sharp. Oh, let's get back over here and get my pliers so I can get him off out of here. That was a really, really good grind right there. And it don't take much if you got the right tools. We'll cool him down. And I got a really, really sharp edge, and it's still a little warm even though I cooled him down. But that is how you grind these tools. I went through some of the basic tools. There's one more tool that I want to talk about, and that is the skew. All right, how I sharpen my skew is I don't like to put a hollow ground on my skews. I want that to be a straight grind there. So we're going to readjust the camera, and I want to lay this tool down, and I'm going to show you how to sharpen this one. Okay, what I'm going to do here, I've got this is a 400 grit stone, and I've also got a 1200 grit stone. On this 1200 grit side is I'm going to put just a little bit of water on there, just like that, and kind of rub it over it. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to, on these diamond stones, you do not want to use oil on them. These are water only. And I would sharpen this just like I would a knife. You know, and I run this thing back and forth like that, and you can put, by hand, you can put a really, really sharp edge on this. And I keep this thing razor sharp. This is a tool I use a lot on Christmas ornaments and spindles. Just made some mule posts here not too long ago, and I just love a skew. And I like a good, you have to have a good sharp skew. Now, some of you out there have got Tormacs, you got them sharpening systems, stations, and they will sharpen these tools also. I have found that this is the setup is the fastest way to sharpen all of these tools in general using this slow speed grinder. And then I just sharpen this skew using a stone. It's very simple. So now, once you get all your tools, you're going to have a way to sharpen them. And I suggest that get you this setup. It just makes it so much easier for you. I got a few things I want to hit here before we close out of here today, and I'll be right back. Okay, we want to close out this segment, and I want to talk about some of the things that you can get into to help you learn. One thing, I belong here in Kentucky. I live close to Louisville, Kentucky, and we have a Louisville area woodturning club. These chapters are branches off of your American Woodturning Association. I encourage you to belong to the American Woodturning Association. They give out about several magazines a year. It's really worth it. Get involved in it. And fortunately, here this summer, we're going to have the National Symposium here at Louisville, Kentucky. This is going to be awesome. Our club is gearing up for this right now. And so look at your local areas and try to find a local club. There's many chapters across this country that you can get involved in, and you can learn a lot of these stuff. They got a lot of professionals come in, and they will do seminars. They got seminars on a monthly basis. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of good people in there. See you on the next video.